I am going to share a little presentation I have on our novel. Can everybody see that? Oh, it's loading right now. So can everybody see it now?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. So I don't know if you have this version of the novel, but it's Stone Fox, and the author, of course, is John Reynolds Gardner. So I wanted to give you a little bit of background before we start on chapter 1, because I think if you have a little bit of background, it helps you understand the story a lot better, okay? So the setting, where and when the story takes place. So you can see that on this map, what country is this white country?
The U.S.
That's right, it's the U.S. Just in case you're interested, this is my country's, this yellow one, Canada. And I'm about right here. This is where I am in Toronto. Okay, but the setting of this story, it takes place in the United States in a state. You know, the United States is divided up into 50 different states. And the state that this book is in is called Wyoming. Yeah, and that's it right there. So you can see it's pretty close to Canada, isn't it? It's in the north, and that means that it's cold for probably about 6 months of the year. There's a lot of snow, okay? And in the middle of the United States, like this area right here, like all through here where Wyoming is.
Tornado Alley?
Yeah, it is. It's Tornado Alley. It's because it's on what we call either the prairies, sometimes we call it the prairies, or sometimes they're called the plains. And it's very flat, and there's not very many trees. It's grassland. So if nobody was farming or anything there, it would just be really long grass. And that's where this story takes place, okay? Now you can see that the year is also not our year. So we're in 2024. So how many years ago does this story take place?
At least 100.
At least 100, yes, it's 114 years ago, okay? So it takes place in the olden days, okay? And of course, life was a little bit different back then than it is now. Okay, so here's a picture. Oops, I think I've left some of my, there. Here's a picture of a farm in the old days when this book takes place, because the boy in the book lives on a farm. So this is what a farm would look like. What do you see in that picture that you don't see very often in Shanghai or Beijing or big cities like that? What do you see?
Houses and sheds.
Yeah. Does that look like the house you live in?
No.
No, it's an old wooden house, right? That's what they built their houses out of. And they would be quite small, right? Because they have to build them by hand. And what kind of transportation do they have? Do you see a big car in the driveway? What is it?
Wagons or horses?
Wagons. Here's a wagon. And horses pulling the wagons, yeah. And there's lots of dogs. Look, here's a dog. Here's a dog. Okay.
Doggy.
Pardon me?
These are, I think these dogs, they protect all the other animals.
Yes, they do. And they probably are like watchdogs. They bark if there's anybody coming. Okay. So again, farming in the old days, there's a farmer. And in the in North America and Canada, the United States, those people, we called them the cowboys because they rode horses and they looked after farms. A lot of the farms had cows on them. But you know, that's how they would dress, with the cowboy hats and a scarf around their neck that they would pull up over their mouth, just like we had to do for COVID pandemic, but they didn't do it for diseases. They did it to keep the dust out of their mouth because it was so dusty. And of course, there's the grasslands, flat and lots of grass growing on it. These are some of the...
It look white, the grass is.
Because it's it's dry at the end, so it's only green underneath, and the top part is dry. So if you were to mow that lawn, it would look nice and green. So here is these are potatoes growing in the ground, and the boy in this story, he's a potato farmer. So these are potatoes. Okay, that's what they look like in the fields. And this is how they farmed, okay? They'd get a big horse. That horse is called a Halflinger horse. And that, I actually have horses myself. I have 3 horses in my backyard.
Wow.
Because we have lots of land here in Canada. You have lots of land in China too, but you have lots of people. We have lots of land, but not so many people. But this is a Halflinger horse. They're very strong. And you see what this farmer has got in his hands? That's called a plow. Okay, right there.
Oh yeah, they use it to soft the soil.
Yeah, that's right. They dig with the plow a little trench in the soil, and then you put the seeds in. And then eventually the seeds grow into these plants. And then when you want to pick the plants, what you do is you plow, and it digs them up and turns them upside down. And that's where you get the potatoes. So then you pick the potatoes. Okay. So that's really important to the story. That's why I wanted to show you. So you have to, it's hard work. You have to have a lot of muscles, and you have to have a strong horse. But it's not always summertime in Wyoming. It gets cold, like I said, through 6 months of the year. So there's the prairie. Right beside the prairie is a mountain range. Does anybody know what the mountain range is called? Anybody know what those mountains are called in Canada and the United States? They are called the Rocky Mountains.
Oh.
Sometimes we call them the Rockies for short, just the Rockies. Okay, so those are the Rocky Mountains, and Wyoming is right beside the Rocky Mountains. So when you get to the end of the Wyoming, the mountains start. Okay, so sometimes you can see the mountains in the distance. Here you can see them. In this picture, you can't see them, or they're too far away. Okay? But again, that's the winter. Flat, cold, lots of snow. So how do they have fun in all that cold and all that snow? Oh, well, they do something called dog sledding. They do lots of things. They do skiing and skating, but one thing they do is dog sledding. Has anybody ever heard of dog sledding?
Yeah.
Yes,
Huskies.
good. Huskies, but they don't always just use huskies. You can use any strong dogs. These are huskies, but many other dogs are used as well. And that's a little sled in the background that the driver stands on, and the dogs are on like reins, and they pull the sled. Okay, so this is another picture of like a town around this time in 1910.
Really, a town? You call that a town?
Well, they didn't have, out in Wyoming, they didn't have a lot of big cities. They just had small towns. So this is a small town. That's a wagon where people would use to carry things back and forth. And these were different stores. Okay? And you can see the roads are muddy and rocky. And there's the Rocky Mountains in the background. Here's an old schoolhouse. Okay? It had one classroom. And it didn't matter what grade you were in or what age you were, you all went to the same class with one teacher. So the teacher would teach everybody from little tiny kids right up to boys and girls who were like 18 years old and ready to go to university, all in one room. So it's a one-room schoolhouse because there weren't enough children to have other classrooms. And it was cold, so they would heat it up in the middle with a wood stove. They put wood in there and it would burn and make it hot. Okay, so in this book, we talked a lot about the setting, but we want to know about the characters too. So there's Willie. He's the boy who is the main character. And there's other characters. Grandfather. He's Willie's grandfather. Willie's doesn't have a mom or a dad. He is looked after by his grandfather. The doctor is a very good friend of grandfather. And then there's a character called Stone Fox. Where have we heard that name before?
Indian.
Yes, he's the title character. That's what the book is called. So he's not in the book a lot, but when he is in the book, it's very important. And then there's a character called Searchlight. Do you know what Searchlight is?
The dog.
He's the dog, yes.
Tree, actually.
Here's a picture. If you look here, this is Willie. This is Searchlight. And over here, who do you think this is?
Stone Fox.
Yes.
Doesn't.
And this is Stone Fox's team of sled dogs. Okay? So he has a lot of dogs. Willie just has one.
And he died.
Yes. Any questions about that? Any questions?
No.
No? Okay, so before we're going to start to read, I'm going to ask you to think about some questions, okay? So let me ask you these questions. Okay, so if you were in class, oops, that's the novel. Wait a second. I want to pull up something different first. Yeah. So, oh gosh, it keeps coming up the same. That's a technical malfunction. Let's see if I can get something else.
Mouse.
Okay. So I'm going to give you a question. There's no right or wrong answer, but I just want you to tell me what you think. Okay? So do you believe in this? Giving up is not an option. So you never give up. What do you think? Do you strongly agree with that? Do you somewhat agree, like a little bit? Do you somewhat disagree? Well, I disagree a little bit. Or do you strongly disagree? What do you think? Dorothy, what do you think? Do you believe that giving up is not an option? Like you have to always keep trying?
I strongly disagree with it, because if you are doing something bad, you must give up it, not to continue do it.
That's true. Very good. Very good. Okay, let's go to another question. We can do challenging things, so hard things, for the people we love. What do you think about that? Alicia, what do you think? Do you think you can do hard things for somebody that you love?
I somewhat disagree because if like you want to kill a person for the person you love, then that's not good, and well, that's against the law.
That's a very good point. Yes. We can do challenging things, but we won't do bad things for the people we love. Very good point. Okay. How about this? When people in our lives, like our family and our friends, are going through tough times, like, they're having a really hard time, we should help them out. What do you think about that? Yang, what do you think about that? Do you think we should help out people who are going through a tough time, who are having problems? Should we help? I don't know if he hears me. How about you, Dorothy? What do you think? Should we help? You're muted, Dorothy. You have to unmute. There you go.
Yeah, I'm strongly agree with it.
Okay, yes. Do you strongly agree too, Alicia?
No.
You don't? What do you feel?
I somewhat agree and somewhat disagree, because
Okay.
it's a good thing to help people, but on the other side, they'll have to develop their own problem-solving side.
All right, very good point. Yes, indeed. Okay, and I think there's one last question. People can surprise us by being different than we first thought they were. So maybe when you meet somebody and you think they're one way, but then when you get to know them, you realize they're not that way at all. They're completely different from what you first thought. Do you agree with that?
It is.
Yeah? How about you, Dorothy? Do you agree with that? Can people surprise us that way?
I'm not really agree with.
You don't think? You think you can pretty well tell what a person is like when you meet them?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, good. So
It's so weird.
all of these questions are statements and questions. These are all things that Willie in the story has to think about and decide. So when he's doing that, you can also think if you agree with Willie or you disagree. You think, you know what, Willie, I don't think you're doing the best thing there. If it was me, I would do it a different way. So we'll see. Okay, so I'm going to open up the novel. So this is, as you can see, like a version on the internet. Okay.
Ebook.
Yes. Well, it's not even an ebook. It's like a book that somebody photocopied and put on the internet. So there's 10 chapters in the book. So tonight we're going to read the first chapter, which is called Grandfather. And there's a picture. Who do you think these people are?
Willie and Grandfather.
Yeah, that's Willie and that's Grandfather. Okay, so who would like to read this page out loud for us? Alicia, would you like to read that? Okay,
Yeah.
Okay, good.
One day, Grandfather wouldn't get out of bed. He just lay there and stared at the ceiling and looked sad. At first, little Willie thought he was playing. Little Willie lived with his grandfather on a small potato farm in Wyoming. It was hard work living on a potato farm, but it was also a lot of fun, especially when Grandfather felt like playing, like the time Grandfather dressed up as a scarecrow out in the garden. It took little Willie an hour to catch on. Boy, did they laugh. Grandfather laughed so hard he cried, and when he cried, his beard filled up with tears.
Very good. Okay, so it says, as we talked about, he lives on a potato farm in Wyoming, right? Just like those potato plants. And it's very hard work, like I said, right? But they have fun. Grandfather sounds like a fun guy. So one day, Grandfather dressed up as a scarecrow. What's a scarecrow? Who knows what a scarecrow is?
A thing stuffed with the hay to make it look like a person to scare.
Exactly. So farmers use scarecrows. They get a shirt and an old pair of pants and they stuff it, like Alicia says, with straw or hay to make, and they put it up on a stick so that it looks like there's a person there. Sometimes they put a hat there. And so the crows that might eat the farmer's food that he's growing in his field, the crows are afraid of people, so maybe they won't come and eat the crops. So one day, grandfather pretended to be the scarecrow. How long did it take little Willie to figure out that grandfather was the scarecrow? Dorothy, how long did it take him to figure that out?
I didn't find it. I didn't find it.
It's okay, right here. You read this to yourself.
An hour.
An hour. It took little Willie an hour to catch on. That's an English phrase that means to figure it out. Okay? And of course, that was just one of the jokes that grandfather likes to play on little Willie to have fun. Okay. Dorothy, would you like to read this?
Grandfather always got up real early in the morning, so early that it was still dark outside. He would make a fire, then he would make breakfast and call little Willie. "Hurry up, or you'll be eating with the chickens," he would say. Then he would throw his head back and laugh. Once, little Willie went up to sleep. When he woke up, he found his plate out in the chicken coop. It was picked clean. He never slept late again after that. That is, until this morning. For some reason, grandfather had forgotten to call him. That's when little Willie discovered that grandfather was still in bed. There could be only one explanation. Grandfather was playing. It was another trick. Or was it? "Get up, grandfather," little Willie said. "I don't want to play anymore." But grandfather didn't answer. Little Willie ran out of the house.
Okay, very good. So every day grandfather gets up very early and why would he make a fire, do you think? Why would he make a fire?
Make a fire is to keep us warm.
Keep us
Use the
warm?
wood.
And what else would they do on a fire, do you think, back then? What do you think people did with fires before they had stoves and ovens and cookers and things like that?
They use food to make a fire.
Well, they would cook their food on the fire, right? So when grandfather got out of bed, he would make the fire, which would warm up the little house, and then he'd start cooking breakfast. Alicia, what did he say to Willie when he would wake up Willie to come and get his breakfast?
Hurry up or you'll be eating with the chickens.
Yes, he'd tell. So Willie, like a lot of kids, like to sleep in sometimes. And one day, even though grandfather woke him up, little Willie went back to sleep. So what did grandfather do? What did grandfather do?
I know.
You know what?
He put the plate in the chicken coop and it
Yes,
was
grandfather took little Willie's plate with all his breakfast on it, and he put the plate in the chicken coop. Now a chicken coop is a little, it's a little house that that chickens would live in, right? And chickens, they love to eat. They'll eat anything you give them, right? So they would come, "Oh, grandfather gave us some eggs for breakfast. Yum, maybe some cereal for breakfast. Yum, yum, yum." And they would just pick it and eat it all. So who got little Willie's breakfast? Dorothy?
Chickens.
Who ate little Willie's?
Chickens.
The chickens. So what did little Willie eat?
Really just maybe eat a little.
I don't think he even ate anything. I think his plate was gone and he learned his lesson. What was the lesson that he learned?
He must get up early.
That's right. When grandfather says it's time to get up and eat your breakfast, you must get up and eat your breakfast. But what's different about this morning? Alicia, what's different?
Grandfather didn't wake up.
Grandfather didn't wake up. Where is he?
He's on his bed.
Yeah. So Willie thinks grandfather is playing a trick because grandfather always gets up early. Okay. Alicia, why don't you read this page?
A dog was sleeping on the front porch. Come on, Searchlight, little Willie cried out. The dog jumped to its feet and together they ran off down the road. Searchlight was a big black dog. She had a white spot on her forehead, the size of a silver dollar. She was an old dog, actually born on the same day as little Willie, which was over 10 years ago. A mile down the road, they came to a small log cabin surrounded by tall trees. Doug Smith was sitting in a rocking chair under one of the trees reading a book. Doug Smith, little Willie called out. He was out of breath. Come quick. What seems to be the matter, Willie? The doctor asked, continuing to read. Doug Smith had snow white hair and wore a long black dress. Her skin was tan and her face was covered with wrinkles.
Okay, very good. Okay, so when Willie leaves the cabin where his grandfather's in bed, who does he take with him? Dorothy, who does he take with him?
As a Searchlight, a big black dog.
That's right, it's his dog, Willie's dog, right?
Yeah.
And how old is Searchlight?
He was over 10 years. 10 years old.
Who else is over 10 years old?
Willie.
Willie, they're the same age. So Willie goes down, Willie and Searchlight, they go down the road and they go into Doc Smith's house. So of course this is a doctor, so her proper title would be Dr. Smith. But again, in English, sometimes we call doctors Doc. Okay, so her name is just a short form, Doc Smith. Okay, it's very informal. You'd probably only say that to a doctor that you were friends with. Okay, so he calls her Doc Smith. And Alicia, tell me what you know about Doc Smith.
She has snow white hair and wore a long black dress.
Okay, she's got white hair.
And wore
a long dress. What else can you tell me about her?
And her skin was tan.
Yes, she's got tan skin, which means that when you're out in the sun a lot, the sun darkens your skin, almost like a tan or almost like a sunburn, right? So her skin is tan. What else?
And her face was covered with wrinkles.
Yes, she's got lots of wrinkles. So if she's got lots of wrinkles, what do we know about her? If she's got white hair and wrinkles, what do you think?
Dr. Smith was very old.
She's very old. What does she like to do?
Reading books.
Read. She likes to read. So even though we only meet Doc Smith for a little few sentences, we know a lot about her, right? So, and obviously Willie really likes her and he trusts her because he's come to her to figure out why grandfather's still in bed. Okay, Dorothy, can you read this page?
Grandfather won't answer me, little Willie said. Probably just another trick, Dr. Smith replied. Nothing to worry about. But he's still in bed. Dr. Smith turned the page and continued to read. How late did you two stay up last night? We went to bed early, real early. No singing or music or anything. Dr. Smith stopped reading. Your grandfather went to bed without playing his harmonica? She asked. Little Willie nodded. Dr. Smith shut her book and stood up. Hitch up Rex for me, Willie, she said. I'll get my bag. Rex was Dr. Smith's horse. He was a handsome Palomino. Little Willie... Palomino. Little Willie hitched Rex to the wagon, and then they rode back to Grandfather's farm. Searchlight ran on ahead, leading the way.
Very good. Okay, so I want to make sure we understand all the words here. So, a harmonica. Does everybody know what a harmonica is? Anybody
know?
What is it?
Like kind of like a whistle that you blew on your...
Yeah, it's a rectangular prism. So it's like a box. It's got holes in it, and you put it up to your mouth and you blow into it, and it makes a tune, right? So it was very popular amongst the cowboys because it was small. They could just keep it in their pocket, and they could pull it out and play a song anytime they wanted. So that's what a harmonica is.
Harmonica， 老师刚画的这个单词，我给你查一下啥意思啊
？Now, what does hitch mean? Hitch up Rex for me.
Hitch up Rex.
Rex is Doc Smith's horse. So when you say
let him go let him on the wagon. Ready.
Exactly, Alicia. Yeah, so if you have a wagon, I'll draw, like say this is my wagon. That's my wagon wheel, sir. That one's not very round, but and the person sits up here, right? Oh, that person's not very round either. And they hold out, they have like leather straps, right? And if this is the horse, oh boy, I don't know if I can draw a very good horse, but this is the horse.
Good to
Not
me.
too bad. Not too bad, eh? Okay, so horse. Oh my goodness, what happened to the horse? It turned into a... Okay. Oh my goodness. What is happening? Okay, so this is the horse. So you have leather straps, and they are around the horse's head. You're attached to the horse, and then so that's what you do. You attach the straps. Hitching up the horse is when you attach the straps to the horse, so you can control the horse. You can say, okay, get going, horsey, and the horse will start walking. So that's what hitching up means. How about palomino? Palomino. Anybody know what a palomino?
A kind of horse.
It's a type of horse, absolutely. So the one that I showed you in that picture I told you was a halflinger. A palomino is one that has spots, like part of it would maybe be white, part of it is black. That, okay?
I've seen one.
Have you? They're beautiful horses, aren't they? So
Yeah,
that's
they are.
Doc Smith's horse. So at first, Doc Smith doesn't seem too concerned that grandfather's in bed. She says, oh, you guys must have stayed up late last night. But when he says, no, we went to bed early and grandfather didn't even play his harmonica, what does Doc Smith do?
hitch up. That really
Yeah,
hitch up
she's like,
that-
oh, okay, this must be serious. She shuts her book, she stands up, and she says, hitch up my horse. So she's going to go find out what's wrong. And so Searchlight runs ahead, leading the way. Okay, so there they are. That's a picture of, there's Doc Smith in the wagon, and there's Willie going to get Rex. So he's going to hitch up Rex. And they'll drive back to Willie's little farm, and Doc Smith will find out what's wrong with grandfather. Okay, so last time we said, Searchlight ran on ahead, leading the way and barking. Okay. So Alicia, can you read this page for us, please?
Barking, Searchlight enjoyed a good run. Grandfather was just the same. He hadn't moved. Searchlight put her big front paws up on the bed and rested her head on grandfather's chest. She licked his beard, which was full of tears. Doc Smith proceeded to examine grandfather. She used just about everything in her little black bag. What's that for? Little Willie asks. What are you doing now? Must you ask so many questions? Doc Smith said. Grandfather says it's good to ask questions. Doc Smith put a long silver object from her doctor's bag. What's that for? Little Willie asked. Hush! Yes, ma'am, I'm sorry. When Doc Smith had finished her
Examination.
He put everything back in their little black bag.
Okay, so some words, let's see. What does it mean? She proceeded to do something. That's kind of funny, very formal language. It just means she started to do it, okay? So she starts to examine grandfather. So she's examining him. She's looking at him very carefully, probably looking in his eyes, looking in his ears, looking in his mouth, right? Maybe tapping, his legs and his joints and listening to his heart, that kind of thing, right? She's examining him. So she's trying to figure out what is wrong with grandfather. Okay, now I don't know if we have time. There's still a couple pages left in the chapter, so I think we'll leave it there for now. Okay, but I hope you enjoyed that. It's a very good book. I've taught it to lots of kids, and everybody really likes this book. So that's why I thought it would be good for you guys. But if you'd like to take the class, you can talk to Uncle Michael, or your parents can, okay? And I hope to see you again. Okay? Bye.
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 拜拜，跟老师说再见，关了。
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.